The gender pay gap is still real, especially for working moms. A recent Census Bureau population survey finds full-time working mothers earned 35% less than fathers in 2024. It's being coined as the motherhood penalty. Alex Gailey is from Bankrate, and she's joining us now to explain how working moms can advocate for themselves. Alex, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here today.
Yes, so according to the information that you shared with us, working moms, they earned a median salary of $56,000, while their male counterparts earned $76,000 in 2024. How do you explain that discrepancy?
So despite the incredible progress women have made in higher education and their labor participation rates over the last few decades, working women who want to start families are much more likely to see a drop in their earnings or career setbacks than their male counterparts, and this is known as the motherhood penalty. And the reason that is because as women age and have children, they're more likely to take on that unpaid household work and caregiving responsibilities, much more likely than their male counterparts. And so they're more likely to take career breaks or leave the workforce altogether, or potentially take lower paying jobs for more flexibility.
And when we looked at some of the data, what's interesting also to note is that working fathers made 25% more than full-time working males with no children. So how does that get explained?
So in the earnings data, there appears to be no penalty for full-time working fathers when they're compared to their childless male counterparts. Of course, age plays a role in that data, and as people age, they typically make more money, but it's very interesting to see that there is no penalty for full-time working fathers when they're compared to their younger counterparts, because that actually isn't the case for working mothers when they have that comparison. So you do see that overall, if you kind of look at the earnings data and you compare the two, women's earnings tend to drop over time as they get married and have children, whereas fathers' earnings tend to increase over time as they stay in the workforce and build up their careers.
What can working moms do to be maybe more financially successful in the workplace? What would be some of your advice? Let's say they want to take on a full-time job.
So the motherhood penalty is a systemic issue that requires systemic change. That said, I do want to empower women to take financial action and set themselves up for financial success at the individual level. And there are a lot of ways to do that, but really the top four things that I recommend working moms prioritize is one, budgeting. I know budgeting is boring, but it's so foundational to financial success. And my favorite tactic is assigning a job to every dollar you earn, which is also known as zero-based budgeting. So all your dollars have jobs and are working for you. Secondly, making sure you're saving for retirement. Try to save as soon as possible, as often as possible. If you have that 401k and your employer offers a match, make sure you're contributing at least up to that match so you're not leaving any free money on the table. And the last two things are having different savings funds for different purposes, including that emergency savings fund, and always negotiating your salary and your benefits. So many women are scared or worried about speaking up for fair pay and fair benefits, but it's so important that they advocate for themselves in the workplace.
Yeah, well, very important things to mention, and also the workforce challenges that companies are facing. What else should they maybe consider to attract more moms back into the workplace?
So because this is a systemic issue, companies can take a step in trying to help resolve a lot of the issues around motherhood penalty and pay disparities. And some ways they can do that is through more flexible work arrangements, better parental leave policies for both mothers and fathers, policies that maybe help support the cost of childcare or lower those childcare costs for working parents, and also promoting salary transparency within their own walls. I think that can also make a huge difference in this kind of overall problem where it's very complex, but employers certainly could play a part here.
Absolutely. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Great advice for everyone watching here tonight. Thank you.